It's not easy to hear the things that I'm saying, because I'm saying, come on parents, come on teachers, we can be better than this, do what's hard.
You said strictness is love.
I'm saying be strict with them, I'm saying push them as far as you can go, I'm saying do what's hard. The fact is, hard work will get you there. All of your children, whatever race they are and religion and so on, they all must feel very much that they are German or that they are British, because their country is the one thing that they share in common.
Hello and welcome to Tell Me More, ZEIT's English talk from London, this time from North London to be precise, where we are hosted by Katharine Birbalsingh. She is the head of the Michaela school here in Wembley. Yeah. And Katharine, you have often been described as Britain's strictest headmistress. And you don't seem to mind the label. Tell us a bit about where we are here in your school and who you are.
Yes, well, we set up the school and it opened in 2014. We've been open for 10 years. And we are old-fashioned, we are traditional. We believe in strict discipline. We believe in children doing as the adults say. We also believe in traditional teaching. The teacher stands at the front, the desks are in rows, that we teach the children knowledge, that we test them on that knowledge. Modern teaching methods are not like that. We also believe in small c conservative values, teaching children the stuff that your grandmother would have not blinked an eye at, but these days can be considered quite controversial. Personal responsibility, a sense of duty towards others. You sacrifice things that are important to you for the sake of the whole. So we behave in this way and people think, oh my goodness, what's going on? The strict thing, I don't mind it because I think people don't understand that strict means love. It means that you love the children enough to keep your standards really high for them. Because it's actually quite difficult to keep your standards high, whether you're a parent or a teacher. It's hard because, well, the poor little child, he's looking up with his big eyes and you want to let him off. But if you don't give him the detention or if you don't have him sit on the naughty step at home, then he'll turn into a not very nice adult. Right.
Katharine, before we dive deeper into this, your philosophy, let us first give our viewers an impression of where we are. We are in Wembley.
Yes.
This is one of the poorest neighborhoods in London.
Inner city, poor, the kind of thing you see in a Hollywood film. And I have worked all my life in the inner city. So I'm very familiar with this type of school and the intake. And lots of immigrant families, you know, lots of brown and black children. And
we have to tell our viewers, there's a train line running by just outside.
There's a train line right there.
The building is a purpose building, 60s.
It looks like an office block. It has 6 floors.
So it's not exactly Eton.
No, we have a yard outside. I mean, the yard is the car park. So there's no grass, there's no trees, there's no sports hall, there's no swimming pool, there's nothing very nice about it at all. And when we speak to the children outside, the trains make so much noise that you can barely hear yourselves. We have rat traps in the yard to catch the rats that come from the train tracks, you know. So it is very much the inner city. Beer cans, you find them outside. You find beggars sitting around. I mean, it's not very nice. So, and it's not very nice. But inside the school, you'd have no idea because it is an oasis of calm and love and one where the children feel safe, where children who might come from chaotic homes, they find order and structure inside their school. And I think too often if you liberals, you know, left-leaning liberals who are well-meaning, do not provide children who come from more challenging backgrounds with the structure and order that they need in order to make a success of their lives.
You've been quite successful with the school and the philosophy.
Yes.
I've read that more than 80% of your graduates make it to one of the elite universities here in Britain, so to the Russell Group universities.
Yes.
You're very good at the quality of the A levels. Can you give us a bit of detail on this?
Yes. So that's in the 6th form. At GCSE, and it's important actually. GCSE is what they take at 16. So that's a big marker.
You have to explain this to the German audience. Sorry.
So the GCSE exam is what everyone takes at age 16. It's an exam that happens across the country. And all the schools are judged on how they do with those GCSEs, and in particular, the progress that they make from when the children join us at age 11 and then when they take those exams at age 16. And every year a progress score comes out for all of the schools, all of the 3,000 secondary schools. For the last 3 years, we've had the top progress score in the country.
Wow.
Meaning that our children can come here not really being able to read properly, and the progress they make from age 11 to age 16 is more than they would have made at any other school. Now, and it's important because, yes, we have bright kids who are going to go to Oxford and Cambridge, but we must think about what to do with the children who are not going to Oxford and Cambridge. When I say we, all schools, any country needs to do that. And it's important for those children to have meaning in their lives, to be able to have the skills and the knowledge that they need to live lives of dignity. And that means they need to be taught how to read and how to write and how to be numerate. And it's important for every child who leaves school to have certain basic skills to make a success of their life. And I think too often, both in Germany and in Britain, and frankly, you know, all over the Western world, we don't do enough of making sure that our ordinary children have a chance at life.
Right. You already gave some examples of what strictness means to you and to the school. Could you give a couple of more examples? Because I think what you also try to do here is to create a sense of belonging.
Yes.
So not only be demanding on the students, but also to give them a sense of purpose, community. How do you do that?
Yes. So, and that is also very important when you're in a multicultural community. It's important that all, and I would say the same for the German schools, all of your children, whatever race they are and religion and so on, that they all must feel very much that they are German or that they are British, because their country is the one thing that they share in common. And so we have a British flag that flies outside. We sing God Save the King at my assembly. And, you know, I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of the King, you know, but that's our national anthem. And therefore,
symbolizes the state.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the symbol. He is the symbol. King Charles is the symbol of our country. And our country brings us all together. And under that umbrella and the values of our country, Britain, you know, as I said, some of them personal responsibility and so on, kindness to each other, gratitude, decent behavior. When a child gets a detention, he doesn't just let himself down. He lets down his whole form group, he lets down his year group, he lets down his family. And that there's an understanding that when we behave, our behavior affects other people around us. And so they belong to their country. So look, sometimes it sounds like a bit of an exaggeration. A child gets a detention or is badly behaved, and the conversation we have with the child is to say, you've let down yourself, you've let down your family, you've let down your country. And I mean, well, it seems a bit of an exaggeration. And it is a bit of an exaggeration. But the point is that there needs to be, within the children, a sense of, my behavior isn't just me, me, me. In 2025, we are very much all about me, me, me. It shouldn't be. It should be about us. We are a country together. And in these days, difficult times, I would say, for many Western countries, where they are finding it difficult to negotiate multiculturalism, and they're finding it difficult, they don't know what to do. Well, what they don't understand that schools play such a crucial role in socializing children and in making them feel as if they're part of their country. And so I really feel there ought to be a national expectation of schools to do the sorts of things that we're doing. Because if you don't do that, then frankly, you will have a disparate, you know, things will break up. You know, the country will not feel whole. And once children become adults, it's very difficult to bring them back into the fold. They need to be brought up in that kind of way.
So would you say that, you know, instilling a modern form of patriotism is part of your curriculum?
Yes. Yeah, so, and it's not just about God Save the King. It's about making sure they learn British history. It's about making sure they know their Shakespeare. It's about appreciating and loving our country through our knowledge of our artists and our history and our writers and so on and so forth. And that way, We've got children who are Hindu, who are Muslim, who are Jehovah's Witnesses. We've got children whose parents are from the Caribbean, from African countries, from Indian, from China, from all over. There needs to be something that brings them together, you know? And our children are very happy. They don't feel resentful towards the country. And that's because they believe that they are British. It's their country. It's their history. It's their... Shakespeare belongs to a black boy as much as Shakespeare belongs to a white boy. And I find too often the liberal left feel very uncomfortable about the way that I speak in these ways. And they think, oh no, right now in this country, they are decolonizing Shakespeare's birthplace. I don't even know what that means. It's totally ridiculous. What people don't understand is it's great to teach dead white men. Why? Because they are dead. Everyone concentrates on the fact that they are white and they are men. I don't care if they're white or men. It's the fact that they are dead that's important. Shakespeare has been dead for 400 years. Shakespeare has been influencing literature for 400 years. Therefore, Shakespeare is really interesting. Right? I mean, I just, and he's part of our culture. And just because some of us are not white does not mean that he cannot belong to us too.
Sure. Some people will say, though, there might be hints of racism in his plays, and they need to be highlighted. And this is, I guess, what decolonizing his work means.
No, they mean what they did to poor Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl, they actually rewrote his work.
Yeah, true.
They've taken out, I mean, this is scandalous. I mean, if he were able to rise from the dead, he would be telling us all off. We can't do that to an author's work. But of course you can discuss parts of it and say that's an interesting point. But Shakespeare also has a mixed race relationship in Othello. Shakespeare also talks about the Jew and if you prick us, do we not bleed? You know, he's very good on this, actually.
Sure. It's more complex.
Yes.
But Katharine, can I ask yourself, you yourself, you're not originally from Britain, so you have a kind of an outsider's perspective on this country in a way. Can you tell us?
Yes. So it's a really good point. So I, as an outsider, and more particularly, so my background, my father is Indian Guyanese, my mother is Jamaican, black Jamaican. I was born in New Zealand, and I grew up for the main part in Canada.
That's mind-boggling now. All right.
Yes, but I spent a year in Nigeria, and I spent a year in France.
Wow.
And then at age 15, I came to Britain.
Okay.
So I know what it is to not belong, very much, okay? Because, well, obviously I didn't belong in any of these countries. My parents weren't from there. I wasn't born there. I never really belonged anywhere. And, you know, I remember in the, it must have been 2002 World Cup. Now, up until then, I had been in Britain since 1989. And up until then, I always used to speak about, you know, when the football was on and so on, oh, how did England do? Did England win? Etc. That's what I would talk about. And then the World Cup was on. They were playing in Osaka in Japan. And it was on at 7 in the morning or something. So we would be at school, you know, in the staff room. And some of the guys had gone out to watch in the other room, and they came back. And I looked up and I said, did we win? And it was the first time that I had used we. And I realized, well, I'm British now. I feel as if I'm British.
So in a way, you built the very school that you would have liked to attend when you were
young. Yeah, very much so. So not only just about being British, but also about being taught properly. You know, I used to sit in lessons where the teacher no one would listen to, and silence, everyone, silence. I mean, oh my goodness. I wanted order, I wanted structure, I wanted to learn lots. You know, the thing is that the children who come from backgrounds where, and this wasn't my background, but you know, our children, there are no books in their houses. Their parents won't be able to talk to them about the politics of the day around the dinner table. They are depending entirely on their school to learn what they need to learn to make a success of their lives.
Right.
And if the school is not providing that for them out of a sense of, oh, but, you know, we don't want to be too strict, we don't want to expect too much of them, it's the children who lose out.
Right. So the real danger of racism, as you might see it, would be a racism of lower expectations towards kids. Saying
Absolutely.
That you come from a marginalized group, black, Caribbean, whatsoever.
Yes.
So we need to have a special leniency towards you.
That's right.
And that's exactly what you would oppose.
That's right. So right now, there will be lots of schools that will say, we mustn't teach them too much Shakespeare because the poor black boys cannot possibly identify with Shakespeare. They won't understand Shakespeare. But that is racism as far as I'm concerned, right? Mm-hmm. That's right. You have lower expectations of children because they are not white. And people don't realize this. It's not conscious, obviously, but it definitely exists.
Right. I mean, on the other hand, some kids might be victims of circumstances, personal circumstances. They might have not, a proper room at home where they have their desk and they can learn and have the quietness that they need. So how do you square that circle? That there are disadvantaged children out there, and I guess there are many in Wembley in particular who maybe need special attention. But it sounds as if you are treating everybody the same here, no matter what the background is.
That's
but
right.
What if people really have issues?
But they do. And life will not treat them more nicely. They have to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. If we say to them, it's okay, I know you don't have a desk at home, so you don't have to do your homework. In the end, they leave school functionally illiterate and functionally innumerate. You are not helping that child. You have to hold your standards just as high for them as for the child who does have the desk. Because what happens is, he will find a way to get it done. And it is not fair. I'm not saying it's fair, but life is not fair. And you've only got one set of cards to deal. You've got one life. You want to be able, at 95, to look back at your life and think, I contributed, I did something, I led a life of dignity. If your school fails you because they feel they are being compassionate, you will not be able to live a life of dignity.
But has it never happened that, say, a younger kid came into your office and said, crying maybe, saying, Mrs. Birbalsingh, this is all too much pressure on me. I can't keep up with it.
Yes.
What do you do then?
So I remember once a boy who joined us. He was actually the son of one of the local primary head teachers. And she told me he had these issues and that issue and so on. And I said, stop talking about the issues. We don't talk about that sort of thing here. You send him to us, fine. He needs to get with the program. And this was in year 8, so we start in year 7. So he was a year in already. And we walk around, we march around the corridors quickly to our lessons. And I saw him once and he was crying. I pulled him out and I said, what is going on? He said, I've never had to concentrate so hard. I've never had to work so hard. I can't cope with this. And I did not sit him down and give him a cup of tea and a biscuit and say, poor you. What I said was, pull yourself together. Come on, you can do this. Gave him an inspirational pep talk and off he went. And do you know, we have 4 sets, bottom, third, up to the top in terms of ability. He was in the bottom set. By the time he left us in year 11, he had got to the top set.
Okay.
He was a guide. He was a future leader. He became a superstar. The fact is, hard work will get you there.
Okay.
Now, so, obviously, there are some children who they struggle with their reading. We might not have them do French. We pull them out. So I'm not saying it's all exactly the same, but it is very, very similar, a very similar experience for children.
You said a very interesting sentence earlier, which was strictness is love.
Yes.
I guess many parents will say that might be true in the long run, but in the short term, and in daily situations, I just I need to give in. The child is crying, rebelling, and for the sake of peace, I will just let him have his will.
Yes.
What would you reply?
Notice how you say, for the sake of peace. They're not doing it for the child. They're doing it for themselves. When they give in, they're not actually thinking about the child in front of them. They're putting themselves above the child. It is our duty as responsible adults who believe in personal responsibility to see it through. It is hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I know the mums and the little toddler is crying. They just, oh, here's the biscuit, just be quiet. No, hold the line. You asked me about, I have
you have the Russell Crowe stand-up
I have a Russell Crowe
figure there.
Cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
In Gladiator, he's about to go to battle and he tells his generals, hold the line, stay with me, what we do in life echoes in eternity. That is absolutely the case for every teacher and every parent out there. It will echo in eternity because your children will become the adults that you make them into. And their children will become the adults that your children make them into. It will echo in eternity.
Right.
And so it is so important to hold that line.
I couldn't help but notice another quote on the wall here.
Yes.
From the American economist Thomas Sowell.
Yes.
I'd just like to read it.
Yes.
Because it's interesting. It underscores your point here, which is, and it reads, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear.
That's right.
What is the truth that you want to hear? Which people?
What I want people to hear.
Yeah. What is your truth that you want to get out of that?
Exactly what I've been saying. It's not easy to hear the things that I'm saying, because I'm saying, come on parents, come on teachers, we can be better than this, do what's hard. It would be much easier for me to say, oh, the lovely immigrant children, oh, let's all just dance around in the meadows. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying, hold the line. I'm saying, be strict with them. I'm saying, push them as far as you can go. I'm saying, do what's hard. That is true. It will always be true. We need to make sure we're doing it if we really care and love our children, care about and love our children.
Right. Katharine, when people hear this in Germany,
yes,
they will start wondering, in how far can we apply what you are doing here
yes,
in Germany,
yes,
in our school environment, but also, maybe more importantly, in our historical context.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I'd just like to read you a few facts from an article that we published just recently on the situation in German schools.
Right, right.
Because Germany's problem is not so much diversity, but it is super diversity at the moment. And that breaks down to 40% of all school children in Germany are either foreign born or have at least one foreign parent. And it is not an exception to have a class which is comprised of 30 kids from 10 different nations,
yes,
different cultures,
yes,
of whom 50% have a poor command of the German language.
Right.
Many may struggle with traumata brought from their war-torn home regions.
Yes.
So, and what has happened in Germany is that nowhere in a comparable Western country
yes,
are school children performing so badly as
yes,
in Germany at the moment. So this is where we are.
Yes.
At the same time, we don't have the opportunity or the possibility to instill the kind of patriotism that you
yes,
talked about, because well, we don't have a king in the first place. We don't have.
You don't need a king.
A splendid history. Yeah, we can't sing 2 world wars and 1 World Cup. We basically lost out in history, in recent history. So, what would your advice be to German colleagues, German teachers who may struggle with all these problems just
I know.
described?
Well, it needs to come from the top, your politicians. I do think you have a country, it's called Germany. And yes, there is history to be ashamed of. Obviously more recent, perhaps, than the British history that we are ashamed of. People say the same thing about Britain, frankly, with regard to the slave trade, for instance, colonialism, etc. They say, oh my goodness.
But Britain abolished the slave trade. Slave
That's
trade
true,
was everywhere, but only Britain abolished it.
That's true, but I have to say that that's not the way it's narrated in British schools, I have to say. It's not. There's great shame around the slave trade and colonialism, and rightfully so in various, I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case. But the point is, a country has to find a way of having an identity and a belief in the country, while also accepting that the country has historical a history it will be ashamed of in various ways. It can both be the case, that you have a country you're proud of and that you belong to that country, but you also understand that its history is not untainted.
Sure. But I mean, in Germany, we have the special problem that if you want to get to the parts of history that you could be proud on, the big thinkers,
yes,
18th, 19th century, you have to access this part of history through the corridor of horrors of the 1930s, 1940s. And there's no way around this. And it's a huge part, important part of our history, a formative part of our history.
Yeah, but then you talk about all of it. To be honest, I suspect it's much more of a problem of a deep guilt that you're finding it very difficult nationally to get over. And obviously people need, you know, to be well aware of the country's history.
Responsibility, you know.
Yes,
I don't feel guilty for the Holocaust, of course, why should I?
Yes.
But I feel a responsibility to uphold the memory because it's my country,
Well, of course.
as you said.
But you can do that while also talking about being German. And, you know, talking about what it is to be German now. What is it to be German? I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what it is to be British, you know, and what is it? There's a culture in Britain, a way of being, going to the pub, thinking of our wonderful hills in England and the Scottish kilts, and there's the Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, and you know, we understand. I mean, I could go on about Shakespeare and about Wordsworth, and I could go on. If I ran a school in Germany, we would be teaching a very different curriculum because obviously it wouldn't be British, you know. And you all should be proud of that. It's not just your history. There's also your literature. There are your artists. There's your way of being.
Sure.
There's a lifestyle that is German, you know.
But
I go to Germany and you stay in a hotel and they give you these funny meats and funny cheeses. I don't know. There's something, and people think, oh, that's silly. It's not silly. There is something that is to be German. If somebody comes to live in Germany, they should learn how to speak German. I don't think you all should feel uncomfortable about asking people to learn German and insisting that they do. There's nothing wrong with asking people to do that.
Sure. Can we hop back to the Michaela school?
Yes.
Because there was another interesting story that happened here just recently. And it's about, I guess, competing ideas of identity. We are in the middle of Ramadan as we speak.
Yes.
And was it Ramadan 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yes.
There were some
2 years ago, yes.
problems here because, well, tell me about it. Some people wanted to pray. Some pupils wanted to pray. You said there's no way of praying in Michaela school.
Yeah.
And what happened then?
Essentially. I mean, it's a complex story. I won't get into it. But there was a girl's mother who took us to court. And then in the end, we won the court case. And my position on that was that...
She wanted a prayer room.
She wanted... One, we'd have to have about a dozen prayer rooms because half of our children are Muslim. So if it were the case that they were all praying, I would have to divide the children at lunch. And the Muslim children would go upstairs to the various rooms to pray, and the non-Muslim children would go outside. That, for me, is a total disaster when it comes to multiculturalism. It is absolutely crucial that schools are allowing children to mix between race and religion. You must not separate them. I was not going to separate our children, and so we went to the High Court. We did win. And that is because the judge recognized that we have a particular belief and way of doing things that encourages a successful multiculturalism, and he wasn't going to stop us from doing that.
Okay. So you can just...
But that doesn't mean, you know, they fast during Ramadan. You know, the girls wear hijabs.
Right.
In fact, since we opened, we only had a third of the children who were Muslim. We now have 50% Muslims. So we've grown our Muslim population. The children are very happy here. They want to be here. Their families want to be here. There was just one woman who, you know, who took us to court. Just so we're clear on that.
Okay, but you got a bit of heat in the course of this controversy. I heard there were threats against the school.
Oh, I see, yes, by crazies outside. That wasn't people here. That was just people on the outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
That didn't come from parents of pupils?
No, they would never do that.
No, all right, okay.
No, some of our parents were really outraged by what was going on. One of the dads, he said he wanted to come in and give assemblies because he had grown up in Muslim countries, 5 different Muslim countries, and he said, they never prayed at school. So this obsession with, well, we must pray, he said it was ridiculous.
Okay. There's also a political angle or dimension to this school because, I mean, the ethos of this school is very much a public school ethos. I think we need to explain to the Germans, public school in the British context means the traditional private school. Right?
Yes, although I would just say that the private schools, none of them are like us now.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago they were.
Right. So your school, just to make this clear, is publicly funded.
Yes.
But you are free to set your own curriculum.
Yes.
Mostly, basically.
To some extent. I mean, there's there are freedoms that we have.
Freedoms that you have to enact your own philosophy here. But I guess the example of your school, putting a bit of Eton into Wembley, goes very much against the grain of the Labour government's philosophy of what public schooling should be. So you are a bit of a sting in the back of Labour, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the case that all left-wingers dislike us. More old-school left-wingers really love what we do, because small c conservative values should not be something that only the right believe in. My father is very much a man on the left, and he has small c conservative values. That is the case. It used to be the case for all left-wingers. It's just the left has changed more these days, and the modern left has rejected those old-school, kindness, gratitude, personal responsibility, sacrifice, all of that. That used to be normal across the political spectrum. It has disappeared with the whole victimhood. If you believe you're a victim, it's always blame the other guy. It's not my responsibility. That, unfortunately, has engulfed the modern left. But the old school left still very much thinks, I think, in the way that we do. It's just that they're all in their 80s.
Okay. So would you say that this school also is an anti-woke project at the core of it?
Yeah. Definitely we reject wokeism. Wokeism is excuse-making. I cannot have my ethnic minority children saying, oh, the reason why I didn't do my homework is because of racism. If they're saying that, then they're finished. The way in which we combat racism is by working hard and by being excellent. That is our philosophy on everything. Okay. So we don't make excuses. Oh, it's because I'm a girl. Oh, it's because I have this problem and this thing. No, come on, pull yourself together. There are obstacles to jump over. We need to jump over them.
Okay. I mean, making excuses out of race is one thing. Experiencing racism can be quite a different thing, I guess. Did you ever experience racism in Britain?
All the time. All the time. But the point is, what do you do with it, right? If you let it seep into your heart and upset you and harm you, then you won't be able to make a success of your life. If, on the other hand, you say, okay, move on, come on, I need to get on with it. I've got things to do, right? That's how we all need to be thinking. Not just about racist incidents, but about any kind of unkindness that we come across. Gosh, I mean, people are so unkind to me. They're horrible to me. But you put your blinkers on. Why are you doing this? Why do you wake up every day? You wake up every day because I wake up every day for the sake of our children, to spread the word. Why am I talking to you? Because I want the German population to know what's possible to do with your schools and to do with your children as parents and as teachers. And when you're motivated like that, a little bit of racism, just keep on going.
Okay. Before we started talking, you actually told me that you had visitors here from Sweden, from the Netherlands.
Yes. The Flemish ministers came recently. Okay. We have people from America. We have from Australia. They come from all over. 800 visitors or more every year. So
would you say this school is not only there to teach students, but also to teach teachers?
Yes.
Or even a school to schools?
Yes. That's exactly what it is. People come and they take all kinds of ideas. They take them back to their countries. I've been to Australia and spoken there. I've been to the Netherlands and spoken. I've been to Sweden. I've even written in the Swedish newspapers. I've worked with a school in the Bronx in New York. All of these schools are changing all over the place, thanks to the visits that they make here and the ways in which they copy our methods. And we get all of these letters from people constantly telling us how their schools or their classrooms have changed thanks to what they've learned from us.
Right. Are you not rather a progressive?
Yes.
Because, I mean, you may say that your method is small c conservative. But then again, I mean, what you do is you question old models of teaching. And you say, we live in a new world, a multicultural environment, and we have to apply new methods.
That's right.
That's progressive thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You're right. You're right. It's also progressive to be bringing traditionalism back and to trying to make it fashionable. Because we were wrong in the West, I think, to abandon it. Yeah.
One last question, Katharine, before I let you off. Are you a showcase for big C conservative politics here? Because you're friends with Michael Gove the former education minister, Suella Braverman, also a Tory minister, ex-Tory minister, used to be one director of your school. So is this also a showcase for what a conservative school policy might look like? Are the Conservatives using you to that extent?
Well, Suella was involved with us when she was a lawyer. You know, she had a different last name. She wasn't married. She was a completely different person when she was here. I'm not in touch with her. She's long gone. Michael Gove, on the other hand, very much in touch with him. I very much believe, and he believes, in what we do here. He had a vision for education, and he gave freedoms to schools when he was education secretary that allowed schools like ours to come about. So I have huge respect for him. He is no longer a politician. He's the editor of The Spectator. Yeah. So I don't think we have anything to do with the Conservative Party. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. Sometimes there are Conservative ministers or MPs who come to visit us. But I've also had people from the Labour Party come. Admittedly, there are more Conservatives than there are Labour Party people. And that is because, unfortunately, there are too many people in the Labour Party who have become part of the modern left. We need to find the old school left-wingers, you know? Unfortunately, they are all old and retired, you know? The left needs to recover its small c conservative values. I'm always saying we are small c conservative. We are not big C conservative by any stretch of the imagination. For one, we have no economic policy. You know, we are not, we are a school. Two, our traditional values, you know, there are many, Trump, for instance, he hasn't lived his life in a small c conservative way, has he? You know,
no big regard for institutions.
Well, and family and you know, the various things that one would consider small c conservative, I wouldn't say Trump believes in. Now, you know, I'm just pointing out there are lots of people. I would say the same for Boris Johnson. I would say the same for various big C conservatives. They're not very small c conservative.
Good point. Katharine, last question. Yes. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Still here? Maybe at another school? Maybe you know, heading various Michaela schools, or maybe even in the cabinet room in Downing Street?
Oh, I'll never be a politician. Oh.
All right.
Those are our pips for the change of lessons, telling us we must pack up. But the fact is that, no, I would never be a politician. They've been asking me that for years. I've been in schools all my life, and I intend to remain here.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.